Cool beans. Welcome everybody to Behind the Scenes Visiting Artist Lecture Series. This is our second go at it, hosted by FSCJ's digital media program. I'm so excited to have my wonderful, wonderful speaker. So I'm your host, Mark Mervin, pronouns he, him. And I have the super awesome, wonderful Jacinda Walker joining me for this second episode of Behind the Scenes. So how are you doing today?
I am excellent. So honored to be here, and just thank you for including me. I really appreciate that.
Of course. So, we have to start everything off with your bio. I'm so excited to share this with everyone. So Jacinda is renowned for her work in diversity, design research, and strategy. She has helped clients including Amazon, Adobe, Kellogg, and others with their diversity recruiting strategies. She has led design thinking and community design education workshops for the Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum, the Boys and Girls Club, and numerous AIGA chapters. From 2016 to 2018, Jacinda served as the national chair of AIGA's Diversity and Inclusion Task Force. She earned her AAB and BFA in graphic design from the University of Akron. In 2016, Walker obtained her MFA in Design Research and Development with a minor in nonprofit studies from The Ohio State University. Her thesis, Design Journeys, Strategies for Increasing Diversity in Design Disciplines, has been widely hailed as a breakthrough work. This research explores diversity in design disciplines and investigates effective strategies to expose African American and Latino youth to design careers. Jacinda is a strong advocate for young people and proudly mentors several design students on portfolio presentations, professional development, and career planning. Walker's future goals are to help scale diversity in design education initiatives and corporations, school systems, educational organizations, and museums for underrepresented youth. Currently, this is how expansive her resume is, everybody. So currently, she is the founder and creative director of Design Explorer, an organization that operates as a social enterprise to address the diversity gap within the design profession. Design Explorer's mission aims to design a diverse future by expanding access to design education for youth and raise awareness for corporate organizations. This work is done through collaborations that develop youth activities, coordinate diversity building initiatives, and connect stakeholders to resources. So we'll talk more about Design Explorer, where you can log on and learn more about her work in developing youth activities and establishing design education initiatives near the end. But I think this is how I want to start off the conversation. So behind the scenes is we talk with the artists, the designers, the creatives, the movers and the shakers, and there's always the glitz and glamour of, I've worked with this client or I've done this, but we want to get to the nitty gritty. We want to have the real talk. So my first question, and I think this will be helpful for everyone, but going way back to the beginning, what brought you to design in the first place?
No, Mark, I think that is such a wonderful question. To be quite honest, I didn't think it was going to happen. I'm the oldest of 6 children. I'm the first girl. I'm the first daughter, I'm the first daughter.
You're the first.
And, I'm the first. And I always knew I was going to do something in art. My mother was an exceptionally creative woman. My mother could knit and crochet. She cooked. She sewed clothes for my brothers and I until I grew boobs. And we looked like little twins. She sewed our clothes. She did all of the things that a Black woman who has 6 children by herself takes care of. Right? She did all of that. So she letting us do creative things at the home was something we always did. Never in my right mind did I believe it would ever be a career. And so when we talk about what we were going to do when we got older and we got big, right? Like that's when we get big,
you make it.
Right. You ain't big yet, but when we get big, what you going to do? I never said art. I never said design because I thought I needed to have a real job. And what we did as creativity in our house wasn't a job. It was something that we did at home, right? I come, my family, we're not rich. And so we're reading comic books and resketching the comic books and making things and, how you take a pair of shorts and you kind of like rub on them so they get the wide, you buy the jeans like that now, but back in the day,
you had to make them.
you had to make them, right? You know, you get your buddies. Remember buddies? Mm-hmm. Buddies, you draw on them, or you like you know, you did all these kind of things.
Right.
And so for many years, I call them the dark years. I just wandered through school because I think what I wanted to do was impossible, and I couldn't find anything else. Mm-hmm. And I struggled immensely trying to figure what, like, I've been in school like almost 10 years, right? Like, you know, at the time I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to go to high school, and I still don't know. I still don't know. And it wasn't until my art teacher, she went on maternity leave. And when she went on maternity leave, she was replaced by a student teacher. And the student teacher—
That's a whole lot of faith. That is a lot of faith.
He was a commercial artist, a graphic designer. And so he took our art making to this place of commercial. Like, we made logos and we made ads, we made posters, we would draw setups. You know how back in the day, before Illustrator and Photoshop came, you had to do all that kind of thing by hand, by marker rendering. So, you know, so he took
the old school way.
The old school. And I didn't know it was old yet, right? Like, so that's what we did. And one day in class, he came over to me and he's like, you know, Jacinda, you know, you're kind of good at this. You should think about doing this when you get out of school. Mark, in my 16-year-old infinite wisdom, I looked over at him. I cut him out. What I promise you was the nastiest look. And I was like, man, anybody going to pay me to sit around and draw all day? I need a real job. I need a real thing to do, because I can't stay at home with my mom. Like, I can't stay at home. I have to do something. And this drawing, I need a real job.
Right.
Wait, no, you can. You're like, you can. It's called graphic design. And he was like, you can go to college and do it, and then you can get a job after school. I was like, whatever. And I just went back to drawing. And I could tell I hurt his feelings a little bit, because he kind of walked away like, because, you know, 16-year-olds hurt a man's feelings, because, you know, 16-year-old Jacinda had lots of spunk, attitude. All 16-year-old Jacinda had all of that. And so as he shrunk away in my peer review, Mark, I was like, what if he's telling the truth? What if there is something that I can do with drawing and art, and be able to have my own life and have my own apartment and, you know, buy my own clothes? Like, maybe there is. And so I did what any inquisitive young person would do. I cut class and I went to the guidance counselor office to ask them if they knew about this thing called graphic design. And Mark, lo and behold, they said yes. And they gave me binders. So, you know, this is before the internet. I should preface that. I'm a seasoned designer. So this means I was working well before Google came on scene. And so you didn't have that access to go and look it up. And so the guidance counselor staff, they brought me those old school 3-inch binders where they put the college brochures in there. And they were like, these are all about college, but these 3 are the only ones that have art stuff in it. And that's the day that is the day it all changed for me. I literally went home like 2 days later, after coming back again, looking at those binders and books and, you know, what the schools offered and types of design you could do and drawing. And, you know, at the time it was like commercial art, like what you could do. And I went home and I told my mom I was going to go to college. And she looked at me like, well, if you want to do it, you can, but you have to do it by yourself, because I don't know how to do it. So you have to be responsible for it. You have to check all your own mail, and you have to call all the people. You have to do all the paperwork, because I don't know how to do it. And at the time, I just thought she was kind of being like not helpful. I didn't realize, it didn't really hit me that my mom didn't know how to go to college. So no, she wasn't going to be able to help me figure that out. And that's kind of what started this whole thing. And I told my mom, I was only going to get a 2-year degree and I would be back. Like, I'll be back, to help you with the kids. I'll be back as soon as I can. Mark, that was almost 6.5 years later. And I did a 2+2 degree. So I did the 2-year degree. I did a 4-year degree. I did like 2 minors. And I did everything. Yeah, well, it got good to me, Mark. It got good. And not only did it get good, I was fortunate and I got an internship my second year in school. I worked at Engineering for Ford. They're a subsidiary of Ford. They design and they create all the parts that go into the cars. So, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, and we're huge in the Midwest here about car manufacturing. Like, that's
right.
Huge up here. We make cars. And so we have steel, we got plastics, and we make cars. Like, that's huge up here. And Hickok worked for them. And so I got the internship because my reference letter said, the person who sent my reference letter was like, Jacinda is really talented and she knows how to use the computer really good. And he was like, oh, that was it. That's what. And they were like, okay, well, you should come in. And I went down there, click, like, I'm ready. And he was like, you're hired. You need to start work on Monday.
Well, all right.
Well, I was ridiculously nervous, and I proceeded for my first day of work to throw up for 2 hours straight. I was so nervous.
Wow,
I could not believe that this place hired me and wanted me to design, not get coffee,
right?
Not make calls. Like, they hired me to design newsletters and magazine inserts and posters and ads, and I was like, and they were going to pay. I was done. In my mind, I was 20. No, I was 20. I thought I had made it. Like, I thought, like, I could be good right now, God.
Right.
If nothing else came to me, I could be good right now. I could be good right here. And that's really where it started. When I got back, my teachers were really excited that I had that type of experience. We produced 2 professional pieces during my internship. I added those to my portfolio, and I just kept working. I went on to finish my 2-year degree. I went on to finish a 4-year degree. I had an internship during my 4-year degree term at Ohio Edison, which is a utility company here in Ohio. I worked for them for like 6 or 7 months before school ended. And when they found out I was graduating, they said, well, I hope graduation goes well. We'll see you on Monday.
Wow.
And I've not had a vacation since. I've not worked since. I've not been employed since. So that's
what a story.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, man.
It's absolutely crazy.
And it's interesting in this going through the history that you've had from, like, that's your starting point, because it brought up some things I did want to ask you about and talk about that I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with. So one of the next things I want to ask you about is even having that type of jumping off point, that starting trajectory. How is the support system? Because especially with you being the first, I empathize big time. I'm the first in my family. So sometimes it can be very discouraging if you don't have a support system. So did you have one? And if so, coming from a family of creatives, did you have a support system for pursuing design on a collegiate level from family or friends?
Absolutely not. I remember the first semester I went back home. I had lost a considerable amount of weight. I mean, think about it. Like, when you're at home, you're just at home. Well, on a college campus, mommy's not driving you places.
Right.
You're running, you're going to take the bus, you're running with your friends. Like, I had dropped a considerable amount of weight. And so when I came back, my mother was like, I thought you was just drawing at that school.
What's going on? What's really going on?
Are you all right? Like, what's going on? I thought you was just drawing.
Right.
Drawing don't look. And so when you talk about the support, I really attribute my success to the amazing, amazing women around me that just came around when I didn't even know I needed one of them. And they just appeared and they pushed and guided and supported and lifted. They're calling my board of directors of life. And the first one was Colleen Curry. I met her. I met her at the University of Akron. She was the director of peer counseling department. And Miss Curry, she was Black. She was Black and she had Cherokee. She was mixed with Cherokee in her family. She was like 5'11". She had green eyes and freckles. She had long Black hair. She was like the first professional Black woman I had ever seen in my life. She wore a suit.
Wow.
And you ready for this part, Mark? Nobody called her by her first name. Everybody called her Ms. Curry.
Right.
One time the president of the University of Akron came down to say hello. Notice I said the president came down to say hello to Ms. Curry. You know what she said? Ms. Curry, I'd love to meet with you. Ms. Curry said, well, I can't right now. I got this going on.
Wow.
I'll come back. President Elliott was like, okay, well, call me. Let me know what's good for you. We were all like, did she just tell the president to wait?
The president. Right.
The president of the university. That was the day. I was like, I've never seen another one like her. I've never seen another one like Curry since. And she just provided this secondary, like I call it, second line of support, right? When we came on campus, she did not allow foolery. I know you got a class. Why are you here?
Right.
You're like, I was just, no, you weren't. You was just about to take your tail to class. That's really what you're about to do. She did not play. You did not cut classes. You did not follow. She held a hard line. And I think when we talk about like that support system, Miss Curry was working on her doctorate.
Oh,
so she did homework too. She took calls. So it was this thing that I still try to do with my mentees now. I'm doing this and I still expect you to do this, or I expect you to do it better. So Miss Curry worked on papers. Miss Curry researched at the library. Miss Curry would have worked. We'd be like, but I thought you had a job. And she was like, well, I'm going to school too.
At the same time? At the same time.
At the same time. At the same time. And she met the president of the university. You couldn't tell me nothing wrong about Miss Curry. Still can't. It was just such an amazing foundation. And so when you talk about like where it all came from, I think that every time I got into a different section or area of my life, some amazing woman revealed herself like, okay, I see what you're doing. I see you. This is where we're going to go next. This is where I'm going to let you get to this place. And that's ultimately why I mentor, because I understand how important it is to just be there sometimes. Presence is powerful.
Right. Wow. And to talk about what you do as a mentor and to have these mentors and these women, like you said, they reveal themselves at the right time. So thinking about mentorship, how did that influence your decision from, because I've looked at your work as a designer and how many things you've worked on, and then you have these mentors who have guided you. How did this lead you to being an educator?
Well, if it means anything to you, Mark, I'm still working on that educator piece. Like I'm still working on that educator title. I'm still working.
You are already an educator. As an educator, you are an educator.
You know what I'm still working on? I have this perception again of what an educator does and what they look like and how they would be, right? And I don't feel like I'm doing those things yet. Like I'm not in a real classroom. I'm in classrooms. I'm in community centers. I'm in public libraries. I'm in I'm in the backyard at your church function, running design events for the
Right.
kids. I'm at the farmer's market. I'm at the outdoor back to school special. So so when people are like, "You're an educator," I'm like, I guess, like, I guess. I think that what I loved about when I worked at the museum is that they used a term called non-traditional educator, and I was like, that's the one. That's what I am. I'm not, because I do have the credentials, to teach at the university level. I've been offered the opportunities to possibly go back and get my MED to be in the K-12 space on a more permanent basis. But ultimately, I really want to be able to make impact wherever I'm at and wherever I decide to go. So this educator role is something that it's still evolving. What I like to share, and I talk with a lot of my colleagues about this, I know that I will be in a classroom. I know that is where my future is. I know that in the future I will be teaching at somebody's traditional classroom. Yeah, I know that. But I got a couple more things to do before I go and do that. And so these things are some of the things I would like to get accomplished before I resonate myself in the classroom permanently.
Okay, so since we're talking about these things before you step into the traditional classroom, the traditional role of an educator, I think that's a perfect segue to, I'm curious, what have been some of the highest moments of your career so far? But then also, what are some of the low moments? Like, what was one of your highest and lowest moments of your career?
It's been a lot of peaks and valleys.
Absolutely.
Been a lot of peaks and valleys. Some of the peaks. So like I'm trying to like narrow it down to one or two. Okay. So one of the peaks, when I got to see Cooper Hewitt's National Design Week, because I'd gone to a lot of local design, like regular design. I went to Detroit, I went to San Francisco, done Cincinnati. Look, so I've done these design weeks, but Mark, to see it at the Smithsonian level.
Wow.
Kids coming in on buses to learn about design. Black and brown kids coming in on buses.
Wow.
Buses to come and learn about design. Like that was just writing notes, taking pictures. I've got to just remember this for the rest of my life because I want to do this wherever I'm at, wherever Design Explorer is. I want to be able to magnify something that huge, that encompassing wherever I'm at. So that was a huge highlight. It was a great highlight. I will tell you, the first time I saw my billboard driving by.
Nice.
That was a high. That was like a, oh my God! Like,
that's you.
I mean, because you think billboard, like I knew it was going to be big, but
you're right.
That, and then honorable mention when I graduated with my MFA. I think those were. You have to understand, I was a non-traditional student. See, I got a lot of non, right? I got a lot of non in me,
right?
And so I was a non-traditional student. I was a little older, as they told me, a little older than our regular students, and I was the one that everyone guessed would flunk out the first semester. And when I called and I walked around campus, I got very little love, like, because in their mind, non-traditional, older, Black, female, y'all don't do real well here. And so to have been able to successfully complete the degree, to have been able to maintain a 4.0 the entire time,
wow,
and to have received the full scholarship and do a minor and have my champion who basically opened the doors and supported my scholarship who later offered me, like, Jacinda, you want to get a PhD, you should come back. Was just, I can't, you have to understand, I almost flunked out of the 4th, 6th, and the 8th grade. So to be in this place where I was about to receive a graduate level degree, couldn't have called it. I feel like, what's his name in Quicksilver in the Marvel comics? You ain't see that coming, did you? I didn't.
I love the analogy. You ain't
see that coming? I certainly did not, because I promise you, in my mind, all I remember, or what I thought I was going to do with my life and what I thought I was going to be, Mark, it is nothing like that. It is absolutely nothing like that. I can't tell you how many years I wandered around school, just like, oh God, this is what I didn't like math, and I didn't really like science. I wasn't really good at writing papers. So I wasn't, in my mind, I was not a student. I wasn't a good student. So to continue forward in school, it was insane for me. And so to get that MFA, it meant the world. It meant the world to me. It still means the world to me.
Wow, that's a beautiful, beautiful honorable mention that it deserves that mention easily. And it's and thinking about how you mentioned, like, being the non-traditional educator, the non-traditional student, it's almost like having a non-traditional trajectory. So can you talk about, like, especially something that I'm sure just as well as I know, black tax, got to be twice as good to get half as far. But then also, when you're the first, it's not just you coming up. You take everybody with you.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
As the first and going down a non-traditional path, how do you carry that weight? Because everyone, I think, carries it differently, but especially with how far you've come and going down these non-traditional routes, how have you carried that weight thus far? Yeah, no,
I carry the weight through mentoring, right? Because I don't take it lightly that I'm here. Like, it's not happenstance for me. It's not like why are you here? Just think about, no, right? This is, for me, as I shared with another person, this is past passion. This is purpose, right? When I speak with others about where I'm at and how things happen, I refer to this as the evolution of design. And I've just been fortunate enough to make it to this place in my career. I've been fortunate enough to finally get to a place where I can call my own shots, where I can say, this is what I want to do. Once someone asked me, why would you stay in school so long? So I can do whatever I want.
There you go.
And that's really what I've been doing. I spent 25 years in offices as an in-house graphic designer, and I've followed many commands you need to do. This one, the CEO wants. Mayor so-and-so said.
Yeah.
Director needs. Many moons doing that. Many moons. I spent many moons living that life. And there is no disrespect to anybody who is still living that life. Right. But for me personally, Mark, I had to seek my faith. Like, God, is this all I'm supposed to do? I'm just supposed to make logos and posters.
Wow.
Is this it, God? Right? And I remember saying, like, I'm looking for something. And when it came, it was kind of like, how? And that, when you talk about, like, how did I pay that tax? I really feel that it came through the young people. I was having, some moments, some challenges when I worked at the city, and some young people came like, hey, we're trying to get a design job. Do you know, how did you get yours? And I'm like, oh, I did this, I did that, I did this. And one of the kids made a quip and said, this was like going to a class.
Non-traditional educator.
I was like, well, so I said, okay. What I'll do, I'll make some notes of what I did. And while you're working with me, I'll teach you how I did it. And then you can go and do it. And Mark, they did. And they got jobs. And I was like, you, officer, it worked? Like, what?
Right.
I couldn't believe it.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it. And it was really through not focusing on me, not so much of the how hard is it for me, how sad it is for me, and looking at how I can turn that and put it in somebody else. Right. And so when you talk about like, what does that look like? It's, to understand that I'm the oldest and the first. What you really need to hear when someone says, "Hey, I'm the oldest, I'm the first," what they're really saying is that they got big sister-itis. Right? So I suffer from an extensive case of big sister-itis, and so being able to pour into young people so that they can not have the struggles that I had, not have the challenging conversations that I had, not have to go down these journeys, this path, right? It's something that comes very, it's very innate for me. I still heavily mentor. I've twice tried to work with professional business coaches and leadership coaches who have suggested that I think about how to monetize my mentoring because I do so much of it. And Mark, I just haven't been able to. I just have not been able to do it. I can't bring myself to charge for what I learned and for what I could possibly give to improve their lives. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. So I think when you talk about that tax is real. I've heard all of the comments, right? My favorites are, are you, wait a minute, yours at 4:00? Did he know it was you? Does Tom know your comment? I'm like, I've called on this day's schedule. Oh, wait, do you mind sitting over there for just a moment? Tom, did you know she was Black?
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, Jacinda, you designed so well for a Black girl. That's one of my favorites. But my ultimate favorite is, wow, Jacinda, you speak so well for a Black girl. Did you go to private school?
That's always the number one. That is the number one.
And I remember when it was told to me, I kind of was like, I didn't know how to take it. It was kind of like, no, I didn't go to private school. And they're like, this woman proceeded to go further. Did your parents graduate from college? No, they didn't. My father's a military man. My mom's a stay-at-home mom. She's like, how did you learn to do this? Baffled by the fact that I could carry a sentence. Right. Baffled. So those types of things are true. Those types of things. And let's even talk about the inferiority that comes with it when you hear it so much. Right. Let's talk about where that mentally, puts you. I always joke and I tell young people, I probably could have been further in my career. I think I talked myself out of the first promotion I ever got because I was too afraid to go to the meetings and talk for myself. Right. I was too, as my one young intern says, I was too shy and too quiet and too scared to advocate for myself. So I didn't even get the promotion because I didn't even say I wanted the promotion. Right. So there is, all of that is very, very real. This is the reason why it's important to have people around you. Right. That when that foolery comes in, when that foolishness starts even getting near you, right, somebody can just and someone just block or push back or because sometimes you're just not strong enough and you don't know and you don't realize it's happening again or in this way. So it's super important to be able to acknowledge that and then even figure out how you're going to deal with it because for many years I did not deal well with being the only one. I did not. It took many moons.
I can imagine. Well, I can imagine because I know that experience quite well, and I think that it's always something to, like you said, to have, and something you've taught me as my mentor, if you know already, but something you told me that I always tell my students is, you need a community. You need people who will advocate for you when you aren't in the room, and so I think now it makes me appreciate your journey more, but also become more curious about being the only one in so many spaces.
Yeah.
Was that the trajectory for you stepping into entrepreneurship with Design Explorer?
Yeah. I actually decided to do, I tried to do entrepreneurship before. So technically speaking, the IRS is watching. Design Explorer is my second business.
Okay, right. For the record, absolutely.
For the record. Mm-hmm. Design Explorer is actually my second business. My first business actually started, I was, again, just creatively unchallenged with my work in the city and the government and in school. Because when you're a government designer, when you work for municipalities, you're doing kind of the same thing.
Right.
Like, it's very, okay, we're doing an employee cookout. Hey, it's the employee holiday event. Hey, we're inserting like, it's very like... And so my father challenged me, and he was like, well, you need to be able to do your own thing. You need to get out, get some people to, do what you want to do. I'm like, I can't do that. I got a job. He said, you should go get some clients like everybody else. I said, Daddy, I can't do that. I'm not even good at math. How do you add up what you get? He said, you hire an accountant. That's what they do.
That's it.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll just get one client because, I do need a computer. And so that's really kind of how this thing kind of unrolled. I didn't even know how to write the first invoice. The woman called me like 5 times, like, Jacinda, we're ready to disperse your payment. We just need documentation from you of where to send it. Can you? And I'm like, what? I literally had to have someone in the finance department when I worked at the school district, like, okay, this is what an invoice is.
Right. Here's
how it looks. This is the information you should put on it. And then you send it to the person. I was like, and they just send you the money?
That first go at it is like, well, how am I supposed to get paid? I don't really know how this works. Right.
Sure enough, they sent the money. I'm here to tell you, I went running to Apple, like, I'll take one of those computers. Thank you so much. Like,
the perfect investment.
Absolutely. Like, it was crazy. So when I was working my first business, what I loved about it was the fact that I got different clients all the time. I worked, one of the biggest things I did was I always work to empower my clients, right? So like I would teach them like, hey, here's how you know that the brand works. Here's how the event promotion should operate. Here's what a JPEG is. Like, right? And so I knew then that I would love to be able to incorporate more educational aspects in design. Like I knew that part of it. Design Explorer actually started because when I was in graduate school, I think I shared this with you once before, I spent like 3.5 years in grad school. I was so crazy. I took an English class at our local community college here on the way to grad school, just to tighten up, just to tighten up some things. And as I was moving through the program, I was maybe about a year before I was about to graduate, and my committee members, I had Dr. Noel Mayo. He served on my committee. And Dr. Mayo was like, Jacinda, you about to roll out. Like, what you gonna do? Man, I'm gonna be a creative director. He almost dropped his fork. Like, you're gonna do what? I said, Dr. Mayo, I think I would be an amazing creative director.
Right.
Yeah, I work well with a team. I could have a team of designers. And he said, Jacinda, you need to consider entrepreneurship. You know too much. Hey, Jacinda, you know too much. Hey, you've seen too much. People's like, you're going to be a hard hire because when your employer sees that you got 3 times more degrees than he got,
Oh,
this
right.
is not going to make for a successful relationship. He's like, you need to consider entrepreneurship. And I'm like, I don't want to start a business. And he said, well, why can't you monetize this research?
Mm-hmm.
Why you spent 3 years reading everything about it. How hard could it be to figure out how you could earn a living? How could you support yourself?
Right.
I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that. And he was like, well, I'll wait. I'll wait to sign your paperwork until you figure this out. You want to have lunch next week?
Wow.
And I did. I went back that night, like, oh my God, what do people do who have learned and amassed this much knowledge, who have an interest in design, who have an interest in working with young people, who enjoy being able to do different things and have that freedom of their of their creativity? Like, what kind of business do they have?
Right.
And I just started researching what other people are doing other than graphic design businesses. Like what are they doing? And that's really where I met Maurice from Interact Project. Mm-hmm. And I said, Maurice, I'm thinking about starting a business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That conversation.
Right. Or I'm thinking about starting a business. And I saw what you're doing with the Interact Project. And I want to franchise it. Would you let me have one in Cleveland? He said, no.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
He said, no. He said, because if you're thinking about starting a business like the Interact Project, you should just go ahead and start it. We don't have enough of these businesses. Like, we don't have enough of these to really make the impact. He said, I can't let you just copy mine. You got to make yours. And I was like,
wow.
And so I used to teach when I was in graduate school. Don't laugh. I used to teach at a high school. And the class that I taught, the school labeled it Design Explorations, because I did like modules on interior design, modules on industrial design. Like, hey, y'all, this week we're going to talk about architecture. This week we're talking about photography. We're going to teach digital media. Hey, I'm going to talk about making a logo today. Today we're going to make, like, every week I did like a different aspect. And I did this for 2 years. And when I went back and I talked to Dr. Mayo about what I'd been doing, what I'd researched, he was like, you know what? You need it. He goes, that's a design education business. He goes, you'll be educating everybody about diversity in design. I was like, do you think that's going to work, Dr. Mayo? And he was like, crazier things than happen. He's like, you're smart. You'll figure something out. And 5 years later, we're still here, right? Like, I'm still here. I'm still working with people. I'm still working with companies. We've embarked on this amazing journey of training and working with schools and educators to help them understand more about diverse and equitable practices, like just that whole piece of it. So had it not been, Design Explorer is a culmination, I always like to say, of that influence I had from my thesis committee members, and really knowing that I needed to do something special, something impactful. I did not want to go back to a 9-to-5. Like I just didn't want to go back to a 9-to-5, and I needed to be able to set myself up to have the freedom to control my own creativity. And that's really what Design Explorer has given me. And again, that amazing network of people and women and, has really been the hidden guiding force on Design Explorer success.
Wow. I love the backstory. I love how this one class in the traditional classroom sets you up for, in a sense, a non-traditional business venture, career journey, design journey, which, is the title of your thesis work. So it's funny how it all, comes back together. And so I'm curious, with you being an entrepreneur, and especially everything that the way we've had to switch how we live now, how has Design Explorer adapted to this new COVID era that we're in? Because, in the classroom, I know we've had to switch to virtual teaching, and it's been a very interesting journey, to say the least. So how has, with you being an entrepreneur and in design education, especially with your design workshops and working with kids, how has that changed? And what have you learned through that experience, or still learning?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, because this is I told you that's why I call it this is the part of the evolution of my career. This is what you all are seeing now. This is not
right
by plan. I didn't sit down like, okay, that is not how this happened. This is clearly an evolution. And when we talk about like how did this kind of begin, what's interesting is that when COVID happened, I was in a school. Our governor, in my perspective, upped and closed schools. I have to say, Mark, I didn't even know the governor could do that. But to be quite honest, the governor has that kind of power. He shut them all down.
Shut all the schools down.
And not only did he shut schools down, he shut down museums, public libraries. Mark, that was like 70% of my income working with these organizations. I lost 6 months of events March 6th when COVID happened. So you have to understand those first 3 or 4 days of COVID, it was me with Kleenex and potato chips, the lightly salted, of course, and potato chip dip and lemonade. Like it was lots of that. Literally, my people had to call me like, are you still in the house? Do you have any food? Because I live the single woman life, so that means there's never anything in the refrigerator. You haven't come out? You need to come out the house. Right. I'm like, I can't. My business is failing. Oh my God. It was insane. Like I just couldn't believe it. And I had gone back because I had even just got a little small office space. It ain't huge, right? But it's mine. And so I got my office space. I thought 2020 was gonna be my year. I'm gonna be doing business. We're gonna shut down. And so I had a list in my office, a little whiteboard list of things I'm gonna do in the future. Later on, I'm gonna make a kit one day. I'm gonna have a class one day, right? I had this kind of stuff on the wall, and I met this young person who came in, and her name is Kennedy. And Kennedy came in, and she said, "Miss Walker, you should do the kit. You can do it. We got some time. Like we're not doing anything.
We have nothing but time. You're right.
We should do the kit." And I was like, Kennedy, I can't because of this. I can't because of that. It's not gonna be this. I don't got that. And she was like, "Well, what if you just put it in a box and mailed it?" Kennedy, let me just look into it. And so I went to the post office, started sniffing around, like, what do y'all got? And, then I had another intern. Her name is Elena. And Elena was like,
yeah.
Yeah, you remember my Elena? Elena was like, "Miss Walker, you get those supplies at the store, at the dollar store." Elena, stop. And she just kept, the young people, they just, Miss Walker, hey, you send it. Hey, you send it. Miss Walker. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, Elena, look. Here's $40. Use 20 for it for your gas tank. Here's 20 for the supplies, and here's the list. Let me know what happens. Do you know this chick bought me $5.56 back? She got everything on the list and some extras.
And change
with the receipt. I'm trying to tell you, I was back. Where did you, what? And it wasn't hideous.
Wow.
Tell me everything. Sit down. Tell me where'd you go? And she just, hey, sometimes we do this. Their family has they're very active in their church. And so they're always really crafty getting supplies for the church and things like that. So she showed me these unique options, right? And we started budgeting it out. I'm like, oh my gosh. If we put them in the boxes, or if we don't get boxes, maybe we get some bags. Kennedy was like, we can find them on Amazon. Because young people know Amazon salt. Go to Amazon. You got something. And Mark, that's what we did. And what's so crazy, that summer, we gave out 56 of those kits.
Wow.
Not one kid left the supply. Not one little boy ran back to get his. When his father was like, "Oh, I just want to give you the scissors back because Adam took the scissors accidentally." "Oh, no. The scissors are Adam's. They go with the kit. You can have them." I swear Adam broke back hold up. I need them. Give me my scissors back. Right. We had no kid leave a supply. It was the most startling, unique, like aha moment ever. Like, we finished the kits. I had another organization here interested in doing like some summer camps, and they were about to cancel me again because they're like, hey, it's COVID and we can't be indoors. And so we can't have design. Design happens everywhere. Everything is design. We can do design outside. Sure. Outside? Give me a moment. Mark, I bought a tent. I bought outdoor chairs. I bought trays for the students to work on. I put all my stuff in plastic baskets so that we could transport it. I even bought the little elastic tablecloths so it can fit on any kind of table, And we went out and we did design outside. We did design outside. We did it at the festivals. We did it at the public libraries. We did it outside the Staples.
You made it work.
I made it work. We did design everywhere. And so when we talk about how have I survived after COVID, what's funny for me is that those two things that I was too busy to do, that I would think about it later, have become the next biggest bridge in our work, because being able to show that you can do design indoors and outdoors, that we don't need to be constrained by the parameters of walls. We can be anywhere and do this thing called design. I can ship you kits and you can go and do design at your house, right? Mm-hmm. And so many people here in Cleveland started getting into it. The museums supported our local modern MoCA Museum of Contemporary Art. Mm-hmm. They supported me. My local AIGA chapter, they came through big, like, hey, Jacinda, we're going to support you in doing it.
Wow.
Because I was this Black girl outside sweating to death, melting with all these other young people doing stuff outdoors. Mark, we went into churches. We did it in the church parking lots. We did it in the church basement. We did it outside. We did it in the lot.
Just making it happen.
We did. And other people picked up like, oh my God, I want you to come over here and do one. And so that aspect of design thinking just exploded. And so we've been doing those types of programs. We've been doing lots of design takeovers, right? So if you want to come to your classroom, we'll do it online, because I took all of my materials and I moved them to Miro, where I can now have whiteboarding apps where you can kind of do those things online. So what I think that COVID did, and I think it did this for a lot of creatives, because we're already crafty.
Right.
We're already crafty. We're already the biggest hustlers. We're going in.
Yes.
We're going deep, right? But what COVID made me really, really think about was the possibility. And I don't know if I really thought about that deeply before, right? Like, what is that possibility? Like, if I don't have a room, if I don't have a door, can I still do design? Is design still possible? And that's really what COVID, once I got past the crying, and I started thinking about the time. I had time to develop these things. I had time to rethink. I had time to refocus. And so those are the ways and the things that we've been doing now that have been super successful. The design takeovers. We're hopeful that the museums and the libraries and things like that do open up, because we definitely have an audience who's looking to have us in those spaces again.
Right.
But until that happens, we're still going to do design by any means necessary. And that's really what it is for us at this point.
Oh, that's wonderful. And this is good because I know we're in our last few minutes, so I want to wrap up with just like 2 or 3 questions. So I think this is the perfect segue to ask, in your own titled your thesis, Design Journey, you are truly living your design journey. You are walking the walk, talking the talk. And so something I've thought about a lot is like legacy work. What is it that I want to leave behind? So what is it that you, as design explorer, as the non-traditional first, what do you want to leave behind as your work or your legacy for a few people or for generations to come? Like, what does that legacy look like?
crazy. Yes, Mark, for me, the legacy piece is real, right? I don't have any children of my own. And so what happens, like I often think about like what happens when the Soul Patrol bus is ready for me, right? Like what is
The
it?
Soul Patrol bus.
Right, the bus, like don't like it's got the music, you know, the lights, like when it's coming down, I'll be like, oh, this is it. And I'm going to lean into the light because I know I've had an amazing journey, right? Like I've had an amazing journey. And so what I'm doing now in preparation of those types of things, like what kind of nuggets and morsels can I leave behind? I'm working to do more writing, which is painful, but it's important for me to tell my own story. Right. And I challenge other creatives to think about it, right? Even if you've got to work with others to document it in some shape or form, because that's ultimately how designers will impact design. It's through our stories, it's through our legacies, it's through showing our work, it's through us talking about our work, right? It's that kind of thing that will keep this journey alive and active and relevant and like all of that. So definitely the writing. Mark, I'm pouring into more young people than I possibly ever could. I'm mentoring probably about 8 students right now on top of the 75 I've mentored throughout my entire life. And I'm thinking that you're familiar with this also, that I have a link on my website. You don't even have to ask me for an appointment because I understand how important it is when you have a question about something and you don't have anybody to ask, right? I just want to let people know that I'm happy to help you answer that question. And so I leave the link out there as a way and as a light to come and talk. You don't even have to ask my permission to have an appointment with me. You are welcome to schedule the link. I don't not take all of the calls. I accept all of the messages. I take them all. And then last but not least, myself and a group of individuals, we're actually working on those next types of steps for Design Explorer. What is that going to look like in 10 years? Because we've amazingly and awesomely have made it 5. Right. What would 10 look like? Right. When I look at people like, Maurice Woods with the Indirect Project and, Vernon Lockhart with the Project Osmosis and, Dwayne Edwards with his Pencil Academy, like these people have invested. And that investment sometimes, Mark, it's not just 5 years. It might be 15 or 20 years. So I'm looking at those types of things that will give Design Explorer those types of roots to be able to be here for that kind of time frame.
Man, I look forward to how Design Explorer just evolves and this continued and beautiful journey. So we've talked so much about your awesomeness, but we need to know how to connect with you. That's always the important part. We can't just conclude without knowing how to keep in touch with the renowned Jacinda Walker. So if you can, how do we connect with you? How do we keep in touch?
Yes. Well, first of all, you can always find me at designexplorer.com. And I have to, put a shout out that, we spell Design Explorer real gangsta with 2 R. So it's DESIGNEXPLORR. Right. Pronounced Design Explorer, not Design Explorer.
Correct the people. Absolutely. Let them know.
Absolutely right. But you can also find us on Instagram, where Kennedy is working our social media channels. You can also find us on Facebook with tons of photos and stories. Elena is serving as the Design Explorer photographer for this year. You can also find us on Twitter. You can find us on LinkedIn. And if push comes to shove and none of those channels work out, you can always reach me at jacindawalker.com.
Perfect. So thank you so much for taking time out to chat with me, to share your awesomeness, a wonderful journey, a wonderful career. And I'm so excited to see how everything progresses. And so thank you all to the viewers who have checked out Behind the Scenes Visiting Artist Lecture Series with the wonderful Jacinda Walker, hosted by FSCJ's digital media program. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your night. Make sure you jot down that information to follow Jacinda, check her out on Instagram, Facebook, and everything in between. And y'all have a wonderful, wonderful time, wonderful night, wonderful day. Wherever it is you are in the world, have a wonderful one of those. And until next time, we'll catch you at the next Behind the Scenes. So thank you, Jacinda. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Thank you all. It's been a wonderful opportunity.
Excellent.